When a person appears to be or presumes that he is technically savvy and is not, what follows is what happens. Our engineer, our recording operator, our IT person who is fortunate enough to inhabit the same body as I do, that's why he hasn't been fired yet, lost the first portion of this recording. So I don't know what happened. I'm not sure entirely what happened, but he's lucky to still have a job. The second portion of this featuring John Raspanti and Charles Farmer does exist. And if you like the first part or the second part, I'm sure you'll love the first part, but unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. So here we are with the show featuring Charles Farmer and John Raspanti.
Now there's more.
My best. I don't want to make him more motivated.
Right.
So he's another guy. I'm a little concerned about his size, maybe, that the other guys are a little stronger than him. But he is a dog in there, and he will lay it on the line. And if Crawford and Spence ever get it on, that is going to be huge with those two guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I just got a little blurb across the screen, and the recording just went goofy. So this was fantastic, and it just went, so I don't know how much of it got. But I'm glad we're doing it. So I'm going to keep going. I'll cut this part if it didn't get something. I don't even know what that message meant, but this recording went, it's not recording them, it's recording again. So I just want to let you know in case it got all screwed up. So now I'm pissed.
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for more. I mean,
yeah, I know.
I was going to ask John if what he thought, and I know we can talk about this later if it doesn't record. That I was thinking that Keith Thurman, the Keith Thurman fight with Danny Garcia, Porter must have watched that tape because he went and started to the box, and he went, and that caused Danny Garcia some issues. And the one thing I was reminding one of my other buddies was Danny Garcia does not seem like the Philadelphia fighters we think come out of that area.
Right.
I'm like, where is that guy? And it was almost as if
the last he trained at, right?
Yeah, like he's been waiting. He's waiting to be first. He hasn't been
counter-puncher. He waits.
Yeah. Well, and he's waiting too long.
Right.
Because, he waits too long. Yeah.
Right. You watch with Sean Porter what he did, and of course what Thurman did. It was great boxing, and to me, I think that we're so used to either having these one-trick ponies, they can only do one thing. Then you're starting to see a lot of these guys becoming more technicians, a la De La Hoya, a la Andre Ward, and Floyd, of course. So that's the beauty of this boxing thing, because you see a guy in a certain position or a situation, they come back to the corner, they get the instructions, like Mayweather's dad was telling me, like the last 6 fights, go get him, 6th round. We know what we're going to do, go get him. You know, they make changes in the strategy, which makes it beautiful, because you're like, man, I thought he was really getting the Floyd or whoever, and then all of a sudden, it changes the whole fight.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you're right. Charles. I think that was a great game plan that Sean Porter brought into that fight. And Keith Thurman's fight in January 26th against Josecito Lopez. He's been out with an injury, as we know, elbow problems. And Keith is great. He's another guy that I really like. He's highly intelligent. He's actually very deep. We've had him on, and he says some things, and you go, wow. This guy is a thinker. So it's very nice, and I like him. He doesn't want, a few years ago, you remember, he said, I don't want to do pay-per-view. I want everybody to be able to see my fights. I mean, I thought that was very refreshing, and all he caught was a lot of flack for it. And he has a way about him that some people think he's conceited, but he's really not like that, really. I've talked to him in person, and he's actually a very funny guy and very down-to-earth. He's just smart, so he comes across kind of like that, but I'm glad he's getting back in there, and I think he wants to fight the big guys.
Well, I can empathize with the smart people coming across conceited because, well, anyway.
Yeah, I have heard that about you.
Oh, no, I was talking about somebody else in the room, but that's okay.
Yeah,
but
look.
Oh, me.
Look, John knew exactly who you were talking about.
Anyway, but now I'm going to touch on something. Now, since we're in this roundtable forum here, since with all continuities has been shot out the window with our little recording snafu there. I recently had a chance to connect with Jeff Lacey, And the reason this goes back to what we were talking about before. There was a point where Jeff Lacy was the most feared man in that division. And I don't think anyone's going to doubt that. And then he ran up against our buddy Joe Calzaghe. And I just rewatched that last week just because I had been talking to Jeff Lacy, and I was like, wow. I think that and I don't remember the fight, the lead up to that being that he was going to have any problems with Calzaghe, and I believe that we talked about it as well, Charles, like, Calzaghe's overblown. He's, he doesn't fight anybody. He doesn't this, he doesn't that. And that was a shutout. And the reason I brought that up is because there are times that, styles make fights and all that stuff that we've talked about and we've heard about throughout the years. But until you put them in the ring, you don't know. And I think that's the thing that we have with a lot of these things. We can debate it all we want, which I think is great. But we're getting to the point, I hope we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we've talked enough, put them in the ring. Another fight that I remember that the hype was talking about what we were talking about with Gotti Mayweather. It was, this, I didn't think it was going to happen, but Ricky Hatton Mayweather. Mm-hmm. 10 million Brits came over and filled the streets of Las Vegas and drank every Guinness in sight, and they thought he had a shot. And no, he didn't have a prayer. But it's the hype helps make fights. So I think where we're at with the welters right now is there is such a buildup because there are so many of them that let's get them in the ring and find out. We're not going to sort it out anytime soon by talking about it. But it's nice that there are Porter, Thurman, Garcia, Bud Crawford. There are enough of them out there that let's put them in there and see what happens. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm with you too. But there's so many fights. Like, I have to say this, and I know people are not going to like it, but it is what it is. I want to see Lomachenko fight some damn body. Can we get Lomachenko and Mikey Garcia? And no disrespect to him. He's doing what he's supposed to do. It reminds me of back in the day when Larry Holmes, he had to fight who was there. I get that. But can I see him against Mikey Garcia? I just want to see that greatness to another level. And I'm not sure if I've seen it at the level I want to see it yet.
Well, that's kind of where I was saying with Calzaghe. Who's he fought? And then he fought somebody like, oh, okay, I'll buy it now.
Later in his career, yeah.
Yeah, well, right.
Yeah, Lomachenko is funny, Charles. I was thinking about him, so you must have caught my vibe. But yeah, Lomachenko, when he fought Linares, you guys saw that fight, right? I mean, moving up, he's a little guy, and I don't think he can move up much more. I think going up to 140 pounds, he's getting into dangerous territory there. He got knocked down by that right hand by Linares, and he got up and he stopped him 2 rounds later. But that was dangerous, when you're thinking he struggled he struggled in his last fight. The bigger guys, I think, are going to give him trouble. And Mikey's a little bigger as far as that goes. And Mikey's got a great right hand. You don't want to get hit by that right hand if you're Lomachenko, Right. So Lomachenko is a great fighter. He technically, and his footwork just blows my mind. If you're into the sweet science and the way he does all this, and I mean, he's just incredible to watch. It might be boring to some people, but as a technician, he's amazing. But Charles is right. He's got to fight somebody where you're thinking, he could lose this. That's what we want. That's what we want to see. We want to see now who's out there. Well, Mikey, and especially after but we know who Mikey's fighting. But when we had Robert Garcia on our show, we asked, Robert really wants Mikey to fight Lomachenko. So after the Spets fight, whatever happens, he can go down as long as he doesn't get knocked out terribly or something, and it has some kind of, which sometimes happens. He can fight Lomachenko at some point, but Lomachenko's game. So that's good analogy, Charles. Lomachenko wants to fight the top guys, but it's just a matter of getting your promoter to say, let's do it. I think they want to milk it. Money.
Yeah, no doubt. I respect that. I just think like if they meet at 135, because I think Mikey can make 135.
Yes.
Come down and let's see it happen. And then you talk about the money that will generate some money because people want to see it.
True.
And I think it's valuable and it's something that people will buy into. And the way that we're doing boxing now, that with HBO leaving, it's going to be few and far between. I mean, you have the PBC, of course, doing their thing, but then again, it's going to be like we're really going to be trying to find out, hoping they make these great fights because I think people will come to the table. Because even when you look at the heavyweight situation, and I want to talk about that a little bit when you think about it as to Wilder. And my buddy was telling me, he's like, well, you know he lost the fight. I said, you might be right. I said, but they're not going to mess up the money. But let's be real. And he said, well, Wilder's not that good. His skills are limited, and he doesn't really box. I said, can I say one thing to you? And I would love you guys' input on this. I told him, I said, look, the factor that the skill level of the boxers in the heavyweight division is not as strong allows Wilder to do what he's doing. If there was a stronger skill set of individuals, more technicians, he probably couldn't get away with it. But until that group rises, and there's only Joshua, and you got to give Tyson
Fury's credit, yeah.
Yeah, but
he's a good boxer, yeah.
Yeah, you got to give him his credit. But Wilder can do that. Because I'll say you can say what you want to, he's a survivor. He knows how to survive. Because nobody wanted to fight Ortiz. We know that.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I'll fight him. So that's what I like about Wilder. He's like, you know what? You may not like it. I might be unorthodox, but I'll fight whoever you want me to fight.
Well, watching that fight made me think of something. Of the heavyweights, and that used to be all we used to get, as far as the common fan was heavyweights. And it made me think, going back to, John L. Sullivan and, Gentleman Jim Corbett. Of course, it was a movie that I watched, not the fight, obviously. But you started, good movie, Errol Flynn, one of my favorites. But you started thinking about, he knows what I like about Errol Flynn. Anyway, you started thinking about.
I like him too, Frank.
Yeah. Maybe I should get some swords and have a sword fight.
You have to have Olivia to have an Errol Flynn movie, so she wasn't in that movie. But anyway, you look at it as the heavyweights are boxers and stylists. Now, for the longest time, it was punchers and boxers and stylists. And I'm, going from Lewis and Schmeling to Dempsey and Tunney and Rocky Marciano, wherever you want to go. And again, the line of demarcation is Muhammad Ali. Now we can actually have a stylist as a heavyweight champion, whereas before it's like go out and beat the crap out of somebody. And It seems now that it's been, with the Klitschko's and that group, the heavyweights weren't punchers anymore. Well, the thing I liked about Wilder was like, I'm setting up the 1-2 or the half-2. He wasn't even trying to 1-2. He's like, I'm going to kind of leave the left out there. I'm going to take your head off with the right. That may not have been the most stylistically perfect fight, but if you get in the way of that, fight's over. Now, what I saw that Tyson Fury did was he said, okay, I'm going to slap at you. I'm going to get some points going. I think he got robbed, to tell you the truth. I think Tyson Fury won that fight because he did enough business to be able to win the fight. Now, if he got caught with one of those rights, who knows what would happen. But that's, again, as you're talking about, that sets up something interesting. What can we do down the road with the heavyweights? Because we've got a guy that's the champion who is willing to knock your block off. Who wants to get in with that? Because you can see some of those punches he was throwing. I don't know at any era who wanted to stand in front of that. But then you've got the other guy.
Yeah, Frank, and I actually think that, sorry.
That's okay.
I was just going to say, I actually think Eddie Hearn is very wary of Wilder, and he's the one who's been playing the games with, as far as he's always saying, they're always they don't want to do this. I don't really buy it. I agree with Charles. I think Wilder will fight him. I think he'll fight him in England. He'll fight him wherever. It's just that I think Eddie Hearn is like, well, that's a little risky because, Klitschko nailed Joshua with a great right hand, and he got up and he won, to his credit. I mean, that was a great fight, great heavyweight fight, which it's not as far as historically goes, but for a long time we hadn't seen two heavyweights do that, where they both go down, they get up and they go at it like that for 11 rounds. That was great, but I think he's concerned that Joshua could get, and if Joshua gets hit by Wilder like that, done.
Right.
I don't think he gets up. I don't, because I wonder a little about his chin. And see, that's the thing about Wilder too. I wonder about his chin. But then he was really in some deep, dark waters against Ortiz, and he came back. Mm-hmm. Ortiz had him. It looked like he was going to drop, and he's second. You guys remember that? He was just going to be a big tree, go boom, because he was wobbling like this. And I'm like, holy crap. Well, because Ortiz I don't care if he's 70 years old. He's really talented, And so, and he looked great in his last fight. So I talk about what you said, Charles. I don't think anybody wants to fight him again. I think everybody's like, no, yeah, I'm not going to fight that guy.
Right.
But that's what makes it intriguing. And you're right. Wilder's got that great equalizer. He might not have the skill of all those other guys, but he's got that right hand.
Right.
And you happen to go to sleep for a second, he'll put you to sleep.
Right.
So that's what makes him exciting. I like him too. I understand his frustration. He's like, I knock everybody out. I win these exciting fights, and a lot of people don't like me. So you could understand his frustration.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense.
I think that draw, though, I was telling somebody, I think that the draw it almost seemed to me like there was a chink in Wilder's armor, as if he lost. And I said, I'm not saying this, it's a conspiracy thought or what have you, but now Joshua was coming out saying, yeah, I'll fight him. He's talking all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, you just got set up. You just got set up. Because you think it really went down like that? So, and particularly if he beats Fury strongly, it's like, now I'm going to really show you, I have to bait you in to thinking that you have a chance. And then once we sign the papers, then we'll see. And I think that it's perfect because Joshua was, or his promoter was running, and now all of a sudden he's saying, "Oh, I got a date set in April." Okay, now he's talking because I believe they think they are more confident now after watching the Tyson Fury fight.
Could be, yeah.
Well, the way I look at the heavyweights, I
got to go in a minute, Frank.
Okay,
so
I
my 12:30 appointment.
We'll wrap it up real quick. But the way I look at the heavyweights right now is I'm not looking at them like I used to look at them in the past. It's almost as if it's a different sport because I don't want to look at them like I'm looking at the middleweights, like I'm looking at the welterweights. I'm not looking at them as I'm going to see this great artistic battle. I'm not going to see the sweet science. I'm going to see, because maybe it's lack of talent or lack of skill or a change in that. Maybe lack isn't the right word. That it's, can I knock his block off? Okay. Can I get my block knocked off? I don't want any part of it. I think it's different than it used to be, where you went after the good fight and everyone came in there, because the powers for some of these guys, we're not talking Ernie Shaver's power. We're talking power, I think, maybe better than that. And without as much defensive capability as some of those guys had, it's a little more dangerous now than it used to be.